So, hey Gerardo, good evening. It's awesome to have you here for this podcast session. Thanks for taking the time to join me in discussing one of the most crucial skills in today's industry, which is communication. But before we dive in, would you mind giving our listeners a little intro about yourself?
First of all, thank you for having me. It's nice that you invited me to be here. I really appreciate it. Um, a little intro of me. Well, I started as a electronics engineer. I never practiced that. That's not my thing. And then when I was studying, actually, I realized that I was good, or that I loved actually teaching. So I started teaching along to pay, for my university. I moved into IT, not electronics. And then one day I found the opportunity to go study photography in Sweden, and I went there to study photography. I became a photographer, and then that's how I came here to Canada as a photographer. But throughout even photography, I was also teaching. And also when I was in IT in Mexico, because I'm Mexican, I um, I was one of the ambassadors for Windows 95. It's a bit old, but anyway, so I got to present to big crowds, I mean bigish, 300, 400, 500 people in different places throughout Mexico and Central America. So that helped a lot. So when I came here, I couldn't make it as a photographer. I have to admit that I was maybe a bit too old, perhaps. So I moved into continue with education, and combining that experience presenting, teaching, I started a business. It's called sliding.ca, and we coach and essentially we coach public speakers, in presentations or speeches, whatever. And then 10 years ago, I also started teaching at Seneca, which I really like doing. Both actually things I love doing. That's me.
That's good to know. I had this one question that I've been wondering about for quite a while, and I think
Uh-huh.
all the international students have this question a lot. So when we come here, not only Canada, but to any different country, right?
Yeah.
The main problem is that whoever is a local, like a native speaker, is obviously better at speaking than we are, even though
Hmm.
we might be fluent or something else. But native speakers are obviously better because they're born and brought up with that language or that style of communication.
Yeah.
So because of that, I've seen that. Especially, I've only noticed for Canada, but I'm pretty sure this exists in other countries too. But international students are usually low in confidence compared to what native speakers are. It's because it's a new culture. It's not a new language as such, but they kind of have to adjust to the natives. And what would be your advice on like increasing your confidence and being more vocal? Because I've seen that international students kind of shy away from opportunities because they are not confident enough. So how do you suggest you build more confidence?
I see it as a twofold.
Mhm.
First, and mostly here in Canada, particularly in Toronto, because we live in such a multicultural city and country,
Right.
to take advantage of that and try not to be perfect. I see a lot of students who try to be perfect and they are shy until they achieve perfection and then speak like locals. That will never happen.
Right.
So if we are waiting for that, well, you will grow old and die, and you will never speak as they do, because it's your mother tongue. And of course, you might be coming from another country in which English is your mother tongue, like I don't know, UK or Australia, whatever. But that's completely different. There is just
Right.
a bit of a cultural adaptation, and that's it. But when it's a double, language plus culture, it's quite a bit of a stress. So I would say that do your best, but do not make language the barrier. In a
Mhm.
way that don't shy away because my English is not perfect. Just do it. Of course, I'm
Right.
not saying to lower your quality or don't care. No, I do mean care a bit less in a way. Sorry, in a way that you are not making it a barrier, and I find that a lot. um,
Mhm.
have the freedom of being the newcomer and make mistakes. Who cares?
Right.
People will understand that. On the other hand, is um, I forgot what was the other side. It says twofold. First, of course, try to do it the best you can. Learn as much as you can from the culture, because many times the difference is not necessarily language, is culture. And the only
Right.
way that we can actually adapt is to kind of burst the bubble, because mostly here, again, in this multicultural city, it's very easy to live in your own bubble. And so you are home away from home, really. My advice is to burst the bubble and interact with Canadian culture, whatever that is, as much as you can, and get to
Hmm.
know the little nuance, which is the key of
Right.
the culture. How they take time, how late is late, stuff like that. That
Hmm.
we have completely different experiences in different countries.
Right.
Um, so I have lived in different 7 different countries actually,
That's
and
impressive.
well, I don't know, it's just traveling a little bit. Um, and for me, the hardest perhaps adaptation was here. I mean, for me, Canada was the final, not like the other countries in which I thought I would stay two. I usually stay 2 years in the other countries. Most
Hmm.
of them were Spanish speaking, so that helped a lot. One of
Right.
them, as you saw, was Sweden, but maybe because mostly at the beginning my Swedish was not so good. Perhaps I missed one of some of the nuance um, that could perhaps be diminishing in towards me or whatever.
Hmm.
So I think I missed that. Perhaps at the end I got it better. um, but here in Canada, I think I felt a bigger culture shock, interestingly. I don't know why, but it is a shock, absolutely. So but the best way to face this shock, the culture shock, is to literally face it, instead of shy away from it, because it's exhausting.
Right.
um, so I always say, if you are new to a country with a different language and your head is not really hurting at the end of the day, it's because you didn't speak enough. So you really
Right.
have to be about doing everything as in the culture in English as much as possible, until your head hurts at the end of the day. When your head stops hurting, it's because now you're getting into something. You are more
Oh,
adapted to the
okay.
culture and to the language.
Right. So I was also noticing that nowadays there's a lot of focus on soft skills and networking. So there's this phrase called network is net worth, right?
Yep.
But it's easy to say that, okay, I'll go talk to people, network, right? But I think the hardest part of networking is actually starting a conversation. Now think about what if, uh, what if like, suppose I am in a classroom, right? And we have a class and there's probably like 10 people that I want to talk to, but I don't know anything about them. Maybe their names, but not more than that. And there's nothing in particular that I could talk to them about, but there has to be something to start up a conversation because I think, oh yeah, they're cool people. I kind of want to be like that. But how do I go and talk to them? How do you start a conversation?
Well, first of all, never try to be like anybody else. You are cool enough. So, you might want to join the group to belong to something, but you never want to emulate anybody, I would say.
Right.
Um, a conversation started, it shouldn't be that difficult. Again, is, I guess, self awareness, in which, oh,
Mhm.
I don't have anything to say. What can I tell them? Just tell them where you are, and that's it. Share your experience. Hey, I'm from this country. I am new to the country. If you are new, of course.
Right.
Or I'm fresh from high school. To which high school did you go? Or what subjects are you? If it's with among students, as your example, what
Mhm.
subjects are you taking? What program are you in? Oh, how interesting. Ask questions and share your part. Do
Right.
not dominate the conversation, because nobody appreciates somebody who just starts talking.
Right.
However, the problem is to start the conversation. Just a simple honesty. Hey, hi. I would just like to get to know you. You're my classmate, and I'm new to the college or the class. And it will be nice to get to know my classmates. Just simple as that. If it's in a class. Now, one big difference that they have here in North America compared to other countries is that networking is professional. And what I
Right.
mean by that is there is a method to it. It's not just, oh, I will talk to somebody and that's it. And this is super important, because we also, when we come to a different country, we lose the network that we had before in our countries. So in
Mhm.
our countries, we have an aunt, or an uncle who knows somebody. And,
Right.
we move around and we get jobs through that, because knowing. who you know is more important than what you do, actually, even here. So when you come to a country and you don't have a network, then even more than the locals, you do have to work on creating and expanding your network.
Right.
Even more when like in this country, in Canada, networking is really serious and professional. So people really go and attend networking events, and they do
Hmm.
have a list of which events to go because there might be the best opportunities to get to know people. And they do reply, they do send an email after they met the person. They have a list of who they knew, and then they do send an email. Hey, it was nice meeting you at this event. I will hope we can continue the conversation later. And if they give you a reply from that email, hey, I will also add you to my LinkedIn, my LinkedIn,
Right.
connections.
Right.
And you continue that, grow in the network. And once in a while, you send a little note. Hey, hi, how are you doing? Stuff like that. That's what it grows. A network. In that regard, the conversation opener, I will say, is the famous elevator pitch. Have you heard that?
Yeah, elevator pitch is like when you summarize your whole thing into like a small 30-second or something like that, right?
There you go. Exactly. 30 seconds is a good length. So you can always say, "Hey, how are you doing?" It's a networking event, for example. So everybody is expecting to be networking. It's not awkward to
Yeah, yeah,
to approach somebody, as long as you are not breaking a conversation that's already happening. So the key is perhaps to look for those moments in which you can step in and say, "Hey, hi, can I join you?" And the immediate question, nobody will say no. And the immediate question is always, "Okay, yes, go. Who are you?" And then you say, "Oh, elevator pitch," in the most natural possible way, because if it's robotic, it's weird. So you
right.
really have
That's
to practice. Yeah, it's true. It's so weird. Who are you? I am Gerardo. I work at Seneca. It's like, what? So you have to practice elevator pitch so much that it sounds really natural, which is not
right.
difficult. It's only 30 seconds. So the key for an elevator pitch, the easiest I found, is
Mhm.
who you are, your name, what you do, whatever, I'm a student or I work in this or whatever, and what you
Right.
love. And it's super important. The last part is, I'm studying accounting, and I love, I don't know, forensic accounting or whatever, whatever you really love.
Mhm.
People remember those, so being a bit cheesy with using words like love, it really helps with memorability, so they will remember you. You
Right.
also have
Right.
to remember their names because you have to follow up. Super important.
Yeah, I've heard that they say I read some books and there it was like someone's name is the most important word to them. So make
Oh,
sure you remember their name because everyone likes to listen to it like that.
yeah, that's Carnegie's, isn't it?
Yeah,
How
like
to make
everyone's
friends
like.
and yeah.
But I'm kind of bad with names, but I guess I have to work on
No,
that.
no, but be careful when you're networking, you are asking for business cards.
Oh,
So that
right.
sounds a bit like old, but business cards still work and
I
they are
mean, it could be
exchanged.
LinkedIn in this age, but like anything, I
Yeah,
guess.
exactly.
Anything that has
So,
like a.
but if you're networking, make sure that you have your own business cards.
Right, right.
So when you get into a networking conversation, if it goes well and you find a rapport with the person, you can say, "Hey, can I give you my business card?" Never ask for one, just give you yours. And usually people will give you back their card. Okay, so the
Mm.
trick is not to ask for it, is to offer one and then they give you back. Remember the one of the six principles of persuasion?
Oh, right,
free
right,
free stuff will incite giving back. So you give a free
right.
card, you get your own free card, and then you gather them, the business cards at the end. And be careful, you're not expecting to get a business card for every single person you meet at a networking event. That's impossible.
Mm.
Perhaps 10% of the people you meet give you a business card, and of those that you email the day after, never the same day, they will reply maybe half of them if it's very lucky. So at the end of a big networking event, you end up with one or two contacts, and that is a
Right.
successful one, even if you met 100 people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Makes sense. But as you mentioned, so networking event, and imagine like I just go to someone and say my elevator pitch. But how to make a good first impression though? Like that's something I've always struggled with. It's like I'm meeting someone like a boss or manager or someone for the first
Hmm.
time. I gotta make sure because I forgot what the saying was, but it was something on the lines of the first impression stays for a long time or something like that. Something like
Hmm.
that. But I forgot what the exact saying was. But What I'm trying to get to is how to make that first impression and make the other person feel comfortable to talk to you and feel that, oh yeah, this is a good person.
Okay, this is a bit different because now it's not networking. You are meeting perhaps a boss at whatever you're working, and
Mhm.
you try to grow. Is that the case in this question?
Right. You could take that as an example.
Okay, that's a bit different. You might not necessarily tell them your elevator pitch there because I would be a bit awkward, you know.
Right. Right.
Um, but if you meet like let's say one of the CEOs or CFO, whatever of your
Mhm.
company, and you really want to make an impression, just be yourself again. Um, be assertive, don't be pushy, and don't be too shy. A bit shy is good, cocky is bad. So
Mhm.
you just say, "Hey, I was, they love their egos are pretty healthy." So when you mention something about them, they will appreciate it. Like, "Hey, it's such an honor to meet you. I really admire all your career here and what you have done with this company. Thank you so much for, or whatever. Not maybe not thank you, but I really admire. It's an honor meeting you.
Right.
I'm
Right.
just a clerk at this now, but I hope that one day I will have, maybe in your position, even you can threaten them with, because that shows ambition and confidence, without being too
Right.
much. And
Right.
because you
Right.
are too young, they know it's not coming soon. Yeah.
And what
So,
about like so if I, as you said, that be natural, right? So
yep.
even if I'm natural with my speech, what about the body language? Because I think it matters if you go like, oh hey, like that, or if you're like, oh hey, like that, right? So what's with the like what should be the ideal body language in meeting with people?
Again, it's perhaps the key word here is poise.
Hmm.
Um, Assertiveness also, I think it's a good one. Which means be confident without being overconfident or cocky.
Okay.
So perhaps because you might feel um, too little or too self-aware, you need to practice that.
Hmm.
Um, so always, um, never crunch, never bend your back or your elbows, straight back, without showing your chest too much. Just straight, natural,
Right. Right.
straight. It's not a chest fight or anything. It's just natural, straight. A
Hmm.
firm handshake. The handshake is interestingly very important. So it has to be firm,
Hmm.
short, and never too tight, never too loose.
I
And the
see.
worst part is when it's too soft, or like they call it the fish handshake. It's like holding a fish in your hand. So you want, a strong handshake, 2 or 3 pumps, no more, and but never like you want to crush their hands or anything like that. Just natural.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
that has to be practiced, though. Interestingly, perhaps with friends, like the posture you see in the mirror, in a way that is not too much, but it's not too little. It's always that balance in which you have
Mhm.
confidence in what you can do, but you are not arrogant. That perhaps is the killer one.
Right, right. I
Yeah.
also noticed that this is kind of funny, but I also noticed that there's small details in the handshake. So earlier I used to have a firm handshake,
Hmm.
but it was like this. So if this is the other person's hand, I used to grab it from here like that.
Oh no,
And
it has
then
to be.
someone actually pointed that out and they're like, why do you grab it from here? Like it has to be like that
Yep.
instead of
You
like
you
that.
you have to
And the
touch the
small
hand.
details that actually matter so much. I mean,
Because the
people are
problem when you grab
noticing all that.
fingers, it's a bit fishy. That's a problem. So the palm is firmer than the fingers.
Right, right.
Yeah. So yeah, all
Uh,
the way as far as you can go without hurting anybody, that's best.
right, right. So as you said that you mentioned this so many times in class, but I'll also bring it up over here. So if you
Hmm.
talk to people, one of the most important thing to get them to connect with you and to get them to be comfortable with you is empathy, as
Yep.
you've always stressed upon. So just so that everyone gets to know, what do you mean by empathy and like how do you practice that in
How,
daily conversation?
how much time do we have? Well, again, empathy traditionally is known just as putting yourself in somebody else's shoes.
Right.
It is not necessarily compassion.
Mhm.
It's way better, of course, when it's with when empathy comes along with compassion. But
Right.
if we just concentrate on empathy and perhaps like Why do I need to have empathy to a boss? Yes, you do, because this is a bit of a sociopathic, if you want, approach to empathy, in which you use it to get something from somebody. I hate to do this, but it is true. So that's why it's nice to add a little bit of compassion in that, so it's not fully sociopathic, of course.
Right.
So if you understand what a boss likes, needs, wants, what are their motivations, then you can speak to them, and then they will really feel like, oh, this person can provide something, because it's always about them. It's never
Right.
about you. So when you're talking to a boss and the boss feels that, oh, look, this person actually could provide something that boss or whatever, I mean, boss is just generic, provide something that I need, want, or can use, because that's usually the case. How can I use abilities of this person to the advantage of the company, and consequently my advantage.
Right.
So if you see, okay, I guess this person is more worried about being super effective, efficient, so let me attack that aspect, and show that you can provide stuff quickly and well done at the first attempt, not multiple drafts, stuff like that. Going down, it's sometimes a bit easier, because going down, what I mean is, when you have to speak to people that perhaps are your employees, it's easier because you went through their experience. It's a bit
Hmm.
harder going up again, so to speak, up, because perhaps you haven't gone through the experience of the CEO. So it's harder
Right.
to imagine that. Um, However, more or less, you can have an idea of what somebody wants. Depending on the audience, you might be able to ask, and an
Hmm.
honest and candid question is always nice. Not pretending to be judgy or anything.
Right.
And perhaps you remember from class that the four aspects of empathy are, first of all, perspective taking, which is what we traditionally know as empathy. But it goes further,
Hmm.
because you have the second step is not judgment.
Right.
So if the CEO is a hyper materialistic, almost tyrannic boss, don't judge him because of that. Understand, why is he like that? What are his motivations? So when you
Right.
remove the judgment, is when you can really understand that person. Because if you just see how they might be, how they are, but you are judging them, it's very difficult to actually be empathetic and understand where they're coming from.
Right.
If you can know a bit of about the background, what did they go through to get to that position, you might be even better have a better understanding of, oh gosh, this guy really struggled to get here, so I understand that he
Right.
doesn't want to lose this, or that he is a bit, tyrannic because he's maybe a bit insecure, which is a lot of insecurity in higher levels, interestingly. um, the third step, so first is perspective taking, the second is not judgment, the third is recognizing the emotion. And it could be
Mhm.
whichever emotion, and when we say emotion, we don't mean crying or sadness. No, it could be any emotion. So you recognize it to see, oh, okay, and then you perhaps, if it's possible, that step is the fourth one, is a bit optional, let's say, is to communicate the emotion. But the key is
Right.
to analyze what you're feeling, so you understand what they might be feeling.
Hmm.
So it's a bit like advanced empathy, not just putting yourselves in the situation. The
Right.
key steps are the first two: perspective taking, not judgment.
Hmm.
Hmm.
It's like when you're on the street and you're walking, right? You see so many random people, but
Hmm.
you don't think that every one of them has a complex life that's going on. That's so amazing to me. Like, think about it. You see people working in like food places, and if you visit some place, there's staff over there.
Hmm.
For that time, you just talk to them. They're, oh yeah, good morning or something, right? But behind that, there's so much about their life that you don't know. So yeah, when you talk to people, I think it's super important to empathize with them if you want to connect with them, basically.
Totally agree. Yes, it is. I agree with you absolutely. It's amazing what's behind every single person you meet, and sometimes we just reduce them to that position. You go
Right.
to a restaurant and you have a waitress. Oh, waitress, you're horrible. But hey, what's behind? And it could be
Right.
a full story. And for every single human, there is a complex story behind. It's a
That's
story,
true.
not history.
That's
Um,
true.
I like to say that we are all humans the same under different
Right.
circumstances. So if we were on the same circumstance, exactly the same, culture, upbringing, trauma, story, history, politics, etc., quite possibly we'll be doing exactly the same as the other person. So that
That's
what
true.
lowers a lot the judgment, because
Right.
that person is doing this, but maybe I'll be doing it. If I've been in their circumstances, that doesn't mean
Right.
to condone bad behavior. Be careful, but it increases understanding.
Right, right. There's this one thing that I was talking about this with one of my friends, and whatever he said, it started making so much sense to me. I was like, because I was talking to him about, being successful and doing all of this and being like, oh, regular people don't do that, but like, I have to go the extra step to be better than them and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And then he said that even if we do that and we are better than them,
Yeah,
it's
quote
from our
unquote.
perspective
Yeah.
that we are better than them. But like, if you think about it, even someone that I think is not better than me is probably satisfied with whatever they are. And the definition of being better or being successful or being happy, there's not like one definition. There's different definitions for different people, and it depends on the circumstances. And that was like such an eye opener. Though I was like, okay, yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Totally agree with your friend. Absolutely. Yeah, that's absolutely true. And unfortunately, society pushes for a standard concept of success, usually money.
True.
But again, like money for what? And how much is much is enough. So yeah, absolutely. I think the general concept in society about success, I think, is pretty wrong, and it's easy to buy it
Right,
and
right.
think that it's that successful. Yeah, success is individual and very personal.
True. And as you talked about judgment before, I think because you're an expert on public speaking and all of that, so I think public speaking, at least for when I don't do public speaking, but if I go up to a stage and I have to talk to a lot of people,
Mhm.
the biggest factor for me would be the judgment part, as you mentioned that, okay, so if I stutter, or if I change the slide, if I don't change the slide properly or something, people might judge me, and then it would be like, oh, what is this guy doing? He doesn't know what he's talking about. But what is your advice on good public speaking? Like, what is the main characteristic that a good public speaker has, in your opinion? Like, if you see someone and you could say that, oh, this person is a good public speaker, how do you classify it?
Hmm. Well, public speaking is a bit of an art, so to say that's a good public speaker, it's a bit subjective.
Mm-hmm.
But what I find successful public speakers, even if they're not so good actually, is those who understand that it's not about them. And when you mention judgment, oh, it's because but they're gonna judge me, it's because you're making it about you.
Right,
You
right.
see? So the key is not to make it about you. People we judging other people all the time. You're judging me now, I'm judging you right now. So it's a human thing. We do that all the time. And I
Right.
don't mean bad judgment, we're all constantly assessing, constantly.
Mm-hmm.
It's human.
Right.
We need to know of every person we meet if that's friend, foe, or food, in our old brain. So we
Mm-hmm.
are always assessing people, and we always get it wrong. So we have to forget about that judgment because it's always there. So
Right.
if you are too focused on, oh, what are they going to say about me? Oh, I didn't change this light. Oh, I didn't forget it. That would become an obstacle. So
Mm-hmm.
as usual, you do your best. You always do your best, and that's critical. You have
Mm-hmm.
to always do your honest best. If you were lazy, oh, I'm happy you're being judged because you deserve to be, kicked out of the stage because you were lazy. That is a sign of disrespect to the audience. So you have
Right.
to always be fully prepared, like really know
Mm-hmm.
your stuff, really practice your slides, not the night before, but about a week before or something, practicing
Right.
daily for 20, 30 minutes, depending on the presentation length. And most importantly, throughout the process of creating that, I mean, I say presentation, but it could be just a talk or it could be a
Mm-hmm.
conversation, whatever. Really, really. target it and tailor it to your audience. So what do
Right.
they need? What do I have that I can give them? So when you have
Right.
that gift that is for them, it's not for you, then it's a
Mhm.
completely different approach. Now you
Right.
care about what you have for them,
Mhm.
okay? Not about what they will say about the gift. No, you know this is valuable and I am giving you this. It could be just information, it could be whatever, sometimes a bit um, not much, not a big gift, but it's always a gift because if they're gathered to see you, hear you talking, either virtually or in person, it's because there is something important to be said.
Right.
So that is your gift. So if you see, okay, I have this for them, and it's not about me, you to try to sorry, and to have the best gift you can.
Right.
If it's
Right.
really about them, you try to prepare the best gift, the best wrapping, and you prepare it as much as you can. So as long as you do it for them and do not disrespect them by not preparing well enough or not knowing your subject well enough, I think most people will be safe. And you can
Right.
stutter, you can skip a slide. People, they don't care.
Right. I
And
remember you said that only you know what you missed in the
absolutely, yes.
presentation.
We announce the mistakes actually.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's actually really good advice. And what do you think? Like, how should you speak that people want to listen? Like, imagine I'm giving them all the information,
Hmm.
which is really valuable, but no one wants to pay attention to me. So, how do you speak in a way that people pay attention and they're interested in order to listen to you? I think
Well,
that's the most important.
yeah, that could be a challenge, and that varies with audiences. Sometimes you have captive audiences that they are forced to be there and they hate you because they are forced to be there.
Right.
um, that would be an extreme case. What I will do in that case, I will just face it like upfront. I guys, I know you don't want to be here. I know you're forced, but let's make this time a fun time instead of making it a drag. Let's all
So that's putting in a
participate.
bit
Let's
of
all talk.
humor and like you're trying to empathize with them, I guess. Then.
Always, but that you see when you recognize that they are forced to be
Mhm.
there, that's empathy. Oh, okay, they are not here because they want. They sent them here. They will be doing something else. Okay, let me see. How can I address this? And how can
Right.
I better prepare? So what do they want? And I say you can tell them. I know you're being here by force. Well, force. The boss sent them something like that. Not that they're slaves or anything. The boss sent them to be there. So I understand you're here. Maybe you want to do something else. Don't worry, guys. Let's work together to make this the best time. It's only 30 minutes, an hour, whatever. Let's make it a better time instead of just a drag. I have information for you that is really good. Let you tell me if it's whatever, and you have an honest conversation.
Mhm.
Um, that's an extreme, well, not so uncommon, however, extreme case. But most of the
Right.
time, it's more about you, as you said, trying to entertain them. For that, there are a few techniques. I know that you like humor, but as I told you, be careful with forcing humor.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
so presentations need to be, if it's a presentation, somewhat entertaining.
Mhm.
So entertainment will never be the purpose of any presentation, at least in business.
Right.
But it's always an excellent tool because people like to be entertained. So
That's
ways
right.
to do that, your body language, you're confident, you change your voice, you don't speak with a monotonous voice, you change your pitch and you change the volume sometimes, even you change the pace sometimes, you pause and let them have a little respite. Also using the stage, you move on the stage with intention, never pacing, that's exhausting for everybody, but
Right.
never static in one spot because that's boring. Unless you have to, because perhaps you have a microphone that is on a lectern and you cannot move. That's okay. The the presentation can also help you do that. For me, the best tool in that regard is animations. So using
Mhm.
animations to control the flow of information, it will keep the audience waiting to see what's next. Because if you
Right.
show all the elements in one slide at once, they will be reading the rest of the slide while you're talking about the first point, perhaps. But if you only show one point at a time with simple animations, nothing fancy,
Right.
uh, they will be paying attention. And as soon as they see something popping up, it's like, oh, let me see what's next. So that little changing on the slides, because you are adding elements to the slides, also
Hmm.
keep them a bit of like, oh, not reading what's on the slides. That's a big one, because people do that mostly because they're not prepared. So as you saw perhaps in class, whenever I had something that was a bit long to read, I always told you, you read it. When you finish, let me know.
Right,
So
right,
people know that they have to read, because otherwise they will miss it. A lot
right,
of people are checking their phones because they're hearing you, they think they're paying attention, but because you are saying what's on the slide, well, they don't need to look at the slides. You are already telling them. So if
right,
you make the slides just an aid, not the presentation, and
right.
you force them in a way to look at the slides again with these animations, or asking them to read stuff, that helps a lot to keep them awake. I don't know if you were awake in class and that helped, whatever I did, because I tried to do that. I don't know if it was
I mean,
effective or not.
it was fun though. Like, it was fun. So I
Okay.
was awake. I was awake. Yeah. But yeah, right before we wrap up, just one
Hmm.
last topic that I need to touch on
Of course.
is, so there's this one person at work, I won't name him, but he's
No, please
probably
don't.
like the highest of our chain in terms of like hierarchy. But
Hmm.
it's just the way that he talks, the way that he speaks is so appealing to me. And I feel like if this person was made the president of the company right now and he comes and speaks in front of us, no one would question why he's the president because of the way he talks. He sounds like a leader, like, and it doesn't even feel like he's imposing his ideas on top of us. But
Hmm.
his way of talking is just so natural. He's like a natural leader. But what do you feel is the way of communication of someone who leads teams or someone who's a natural leader, not necessarily leading something, but the way of conversation of a leader? What do you think are the qualities that they have from a communication point of view?
Sorry. In my point of view, what we mentioned before, empathy and assertiveness or poise. Essentially,
Right.
that, you know, really care, and then be assertive when you talk. Don't doubt yourself. Don't hesitate. I don't know this person. I don't know how he speaks. What makes you think that that what you just said, that he's a leader, and how he speaks, or she, that makes you think
If
that?
I think about it closely, I think it's more of like he kind of knows that he is the boss of the place,
That
but
helps.
at the at the same time uh he's always so confident about whatever he's doing that you feel like you need to follow him because whatever he's doing is the right way to go, like something like that. I don't know how
Okay.
to explain it, but it's just so appealing to me.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I think that confidence is learned. It's you don't born confident, I think.
Right, right,
So it would be interesting if you have access to that person to ask him and tell him that, hey, it's awesome. What you just told me. I really like the way you speak. You said you look like a leader. If you become the president, it will be easy. Whatever you told me now.
right.
But then you can ask him, were you like this like for since you were a kid, or
I
what
think I should
changed
do
you?
that. I think I should do that.
It's a
Would be
great
a
question.
great, yeah, it would be a great learning experience.
Yeah, if mostly if you ask with a bit of a praise, hey, yeah, I was you speak. I love how the way you speak. It's awesome. I like what's your path? How did you get here?
Right.
And maybe you were surprised to learn that he stuttered when he was in high school and he was bullied and he learned to
Yeah.
something like that. You would be surprised to hear that, and it's not impossible.
Right.
Um, so, but again, if you care and if you are poised or assertive, usually that comes as leadership. And again, I hate to equate good speaker with leadership. I don't think it's true, but most people perceive like a good speaker is usually a good leader. I don't think so, but it, the human mind works like that. And many times, sorry, I have this little coughing here. And many times that confidence is fake.
Right.
It's
Right.
practice. Okay, as the actors usually say, fake it till you make it.
Mm-hmm.
So you might be dying inside, you don't show it, you fake that confidence, and eventually it will become second nature. It's how you are,
Right.
without ever becoming overconfident or cocky. That's the killer.
That's key. That's key.
Yeah, it's a killer when you are overconfident or cocky. Oh, nobody will like you. Arrogance is a killer. Yeah, absolutely. So that's it's a bit of a balance, because we're talking about being confident, but never overconfident, never cocky, never arrogant,
Right,
always
right.
caring about others. Yeah.
That makes sense. So thank you so much for being here with us once again, and it was really insightful. And I'm sure when I put this out, it would help a lot of people, and especially international students, because I think most of our talks were focused on international students and students,
Hmm.
I guess. So yeah, thank you so much once again.
Oh, my pleasure. It was super nice. I'm very happy that you do this to help
Thank you.
others actually. So that's awesome. So yeah, I hope that this will be useful for more than one of your audience members.